The first thing I found was the eyeball. I was going through my normal morning walk through the woods by my old farmhouse when I saw it, gleaming a milky white in the sun. It stood out easily against the dull forest floor. I couldn't make out the species, but it was fairly small and hardly decomposed. In fact, it was in surprisingly good condition. It wasn't crushed, hadn't been torn up, nothing like you'd expect from a struggle. Rather, it just looked like it rolled out of some poor creature's skull a few minutes prior. As strange as it seemed, finding dead animals isn't exactly the most uncommon thing you can see in the wilderness. I went on with my day. I didn't realize it until that evening that my cat was nowhere to be found. She wasn't an outdoor cat either. I never let her out. Falling asleep was hard that night. I live far out in the countryside. If she wandered away, there wasn't any animal control to grab her. Maybe that was a good thing. Regardless, the eyeball left a pit in my stomach. The next morning, I felt groggy. I needed coffee more than I usually did. I got up, stretched, and made my way downstairs to the kitchen. It wasn't until the pot was in my right hand that I realized I was missing my pinky finger. The container slipped from my hand and crashed to the floor, shattering into many light-refracting shards. I stared at my hand, dumbfounded, counting the digits repeatedly. Surely I was wrong. I wasn't. There really were just 4 fingers on my right hand. Twisting it around, it looked as though there never even was a finger there. No wound, no blood, no inflammation or redness, not even a scar. When I finally got a hold of myself, I fumbled the phone in my hand and managed to call the nearest hospital. A tired woman answered.
Thank you for calling Warrington Medical. How can I help you today?
Hi, I need an appointment for an injury.
What's the nature of the injury?
My finger, it's gone.
Gone? Like a finger came off? How did the injury occur?
She responded quickly, switching to a more interested tone. I'm not sure exactly. My pinky was just gone when I woke up this morning. Pause. No response. It's not bleeding or anything either. The wound is sealed up already. She breathed and nearly spoke again before stopping herself. She continued.
Sir, I'm going to have to transfer you to our triage department. Give me 1 moment.
Light jazz. Eventually, after a minute, another woman answered. She asked me the same round of questions before finalizing things.
I can get you booked for Friday at 2. Does that work?
Friday? 5 days from now? I accepted the limited help anyway. Yeah, I suppose it does. Thanks. I said, quickly hanging up and staring at my hand again. After sweeping up the glass, I searched my bedroom for the finger. I was on my hands and knees upon the dusty wooden floorboards for over an hour, all to no avail. The bedsheets failed similarly. It was nowhere to be found. I eventually retreated to the usual monotonous routines that would hopefully distract me from the recent events. One of those tasks was to buy groceries. Due to my home's location, the nearest grocery store was about 30 minutes down the highway. It was 15 minutes into this drive when, having nearly forgotten about the loss of my finger, something dragged me back to reality. A flash of something brown passed me along the empty highway. I would have ignored the roadkill during any normal day, but this felt different. I thought of the eye in the woods, my cat, my finger. I slammed on the brakes and reversed. It wasn't my cat. The deer was laying on its side, head and neck cocked upward at a painful angle. Its tongue darted outward, as if screaming something awful. And awful it was. There were no limbs, just a torso and head. Limp, unable to move. Not that it would anyway. The outstretched tongue and open, glazed eyes made it clear that the deer was dead. The pit in my stomach grew as I stepped out of the car to get a closer look. If not for these details, it may have seemed alive. The flesh of the tongue was pink and lively. Almost no smell emitted from the corpse. Then I realized there were no flies. The thing must have just died. There was not a single visible scar or opening along the bottom of the torso, where you would have expected ravaged, torn skin and muscle. It was as if it never even had limbs. I honestly would have believed it to be the case had it not been for the four-fingered hand balled in my pocket. The sight confused and nauseated me. I quickly jumped back into my car and stared at my hand. I gripped the steering wheel and turned back home. I went to bed that night, hungry and restless. When I awoke, it felt like I had just come out of the deepest sleep of my entire life. I checked my watch. 1 p.m. I rubbed my eyes in disbelief and checked again. I had slept for 14 hours. I sat up and yawned. My lips curled inward, missing the usual hard wall of teeth, instead flattening against bumpy, soft flesh. My breath hitched in my throat. I raised a shaking hand to my mouth and felt inside. Every single tooth had vanished. I gasped and frantically searched the bed. Nothing. There was no sign of any of them anywhere. All that remained was an unusually large stain of drool soaked into the pillow. Attempting to curse under my breath, the words came out in fumbling, drooly, pillowy nonsense. I ran to the bathroom and inspected my mouth. The empty gums were littered with small indentations where I had assumed my teeth had previously been. Just like my finger and the deer, there was no clear distress in the tissue. I must have always been toothless. My stomach twisted into knots. My mouth closed into a deeper grimace, than it ever had before. My dog hadn't fared well either. He was a big black lab, always cheerful, always wagging his tail. But this morning, when I found him sleeping downstairs, he hardly moved a muscle. He looked like he had been drugged, but something stood out more than the tiredness. The skull curved inward around two large, now empty sockets above the bridge of his snout. His short, jet black fur covered the shape of the indentations perfectly. The sight sent me to tears. I searched the house for hours. I couldn't find his eyes anywhere. Still reeling from the losses of the late morning, I remembered the eyeball in the woods. They must be out there. When I opened the front door, it swung halfway before hitting an obstruction on the other side that I couldn't see. I heard a pained, deep, animalistic yell when the door stopped. I recognized it as that of a bear, and I quickly shut it. I moved to the nearby window and peered out behind the door. Though the angle made it difficult to see anything, I could clearly make out a fuzzy, brown mass near the bottom of the door. I decided to investigate. It was like nothing I had ever seen before. The knots in my stomach unraveled and dissolved into chaos. The brown bear's giant head was lying on its side on the wooden porch, disconnected from a larger body. Two conjoined, pale, fleshy tubes protruded from the base of the head for about a foot and connected to a network of perfectly arranged and clean internal organs. I could see two bulbous, pink, veiny lungs expanding and contracting. Situated between them was a rapidly beating heart, muscular and crimson. Its desperate eyes turned toward me, and it cried out in a deep, guttural moan. The head rolled from side to side. I gagged and stumbled backward before running inside and slamming the door shut. The evening darkness came quicker than I expected. I had dug myself deep into my house, refusing to leave my dog's side. When it got late, I didn't go to bed. I stayed in the living room with my dog. Just as I was beginning to feel my eyes grow heavy, a flash of blinding white light flooded into the window by my side. I squinted and turned toward it. Past my yard, and obscured behind the tree line, was something emitting a huge amount of light. I jumped to my feet and scrambled to the door, grabbing a knife as I passed the kitchen. I walked into the brisk air, trying to ignore the bear head to my right. Now closer, I could just barely make out a huge, oval silhouette, reaching almost as high as the pine trees. Light poured out in large circles, dispersed along the front of the silhouette. Suddenly, I felt the ground vibrate. An ear-piercing, high-pitched chirp echoed toward me, and a single light focused directly onto my body, blinding me. I raised my hand to cover my eyes as my feet began to tingle with nerves. A deep, tuba-like sound hit me like a wave. I turned and sprinted back into my house. I locked the door and went up the stairs in a flash. I stopped dead in my tracks at the top. The light shining into the window at the end of the hallway in front of me illuminated the silhouette of a figure. It was impossibly skinny for a person, with lengthy arms and legs. I could barely make out the gray skin tone in the light. Its head, which nearly touched the ceiling, seemed too large to balance upon its thin neck. It took a step toward me. My feet launched me through my bedroom door, situated just to my left. Numb fingers jerked the door shut and locked it. The sound of heavy footsteps unraveled under the door into my ear. I heard it walk past my door and down the stairs. I sat there without moving a muscle, gripping my knife, sweating profusely until morning. I finally gathered the courage to open the door when my watch hit 9 a.m. I walked with light, careful footsteps down the stairs into the living room, my eyes darting around, searching for the creature. My eyes came to rest on a long piece of black fur that was splayed out in the middle of the floor. I approached it closer. It was my dog's tail. My hand covered my mouth and I sobbed, the sound coming out gummy and weak. I didn't need any more convincing to leave that place. I got in my car, without packing a thing, and started driving. I didn't stop until it was nearly 6 p.m. Although I wasn't familiar with the town I was in, I felt relief wash over me. I rented a motel and tried to calm myself down. I was gone from that thing. Earlier this morning, I woke up in my motel bed. I checked my watch. Noon. I tried to sit up, but something stopped me from getting the leverage to do so. I fell, slumped over in the bed. Confused, I threw my covers off my body. Both my legs were gone. No scars, no open wound, no blood, nothing. The end. Welcome in or welcome back to the end of the video. What did you think of this story? Personally, I feel so bad for the bear. Somehow alive, yet left to suffer. Terrible way to go out because you just know it's gonna die. There's no way you survive that without a ton of support. Fucking aliens, man. Oh, I have a theory about the missing cat as well. So every time they sleep, they lose a part of their body. And cats love naps. So the absurd amount that cats nap throughout the day could have sped up the process of the sneaky aliens? Or the aliens are cat lovers and fell in love with it as soon as they abducted it. The aliens were like, "This is my cat now. We're not giving this creature back." This story was written by Expensive-Pie-9154 on Reddit. Thanks for letting me share your story on my channel. I'll link the original story from Reddit in the description. Some subreddits have some strict rules about the type of stories that are allowed on them. So, Expensive-Pie took to Substack to compile and organize all of his stories without fear of them getting deleted or having to follow restrictions of the various subreddits. So, if you're interested in seeing more of his stories, check out his Substack. It's free to view all of his content on there, but there's also a paid subscription that offers the exact same content as the free version. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, or dislike it if you didn't. I upload once a week, every week, so subscribe if you haven't already so you won't miss out on future videos. I'll see you next Saturday. Bye bye bye.